Up, everybody? So this is night one of me recording this, and we're going to continue this for the duration of this deployment. As I mentioned in a couple of these videos, I am in the Coast Guard, and we are currently deploying. We will be headed to Alaska, and before somebody comes on here and says that's operational security, it would be if I was posting these live. Of course, I am not, because I would not commit such a violation. But today was the first day we got underway, so it was a lot of basic stuff. We had to get in and get the ship ready to go. We had to turn all the engines on, turn all the radars on, and everything like that. My job on the ship is that I am the Combat Information Center Watch Supervisor, and as part of that, my job is to make sure that all the radios and all the communication equipment is good to go, as well as all of our systems that we use to identify other ships on the water. So just some basic things for those out there listening. I am obviously new to this, so I'm not going to know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't know how I want to include things. Lunch was chicken Caesar wraps or buffalo chicken wraps. Either one, we had a choice. You could make it up however you wanted. And dinner was grilled pork adobo. It was okay. I'm not going to say it was the best thing they've ever cooked, but it was definitely not the worst. And I definitely do not complain about our cooks because they work far harder on a daily basis than I do. They are absolutely some of the hardest working people on this ship. Now that we're underway, we have to come out here and do some testing on our engines because as part of the last time we were in port, our engines got rebuilt, and now we have to come out here and give them a test to make sure they are up to full capabilities. As I mentioned in my short that I made about this, there is no way for me to cut out the background noise. It is something that is always going to be here because there's nowhere on this ship that is quiet. If you look around or listen around on this ship and something is quiet, something is wrong. You should investigate that. It is never quiet here. That is something that you get used to as far as sleeping and everything else. It is always loud. I guess loud might not be quite right. It is always noisy. There's always just background noise going as you're out here. I'm not actually sure what's on the schedule tomorrow. I'm not one of these people who looks at the published plan of the day and really dives into it to see exactly what we're going to do. I have nowhere else to be except for right here. And so regardless of what is on the schedule, I am here and I will do whatever is required. There's a lot of stuff that we're having to get used to again, being back underway. A lot of us have not been underway in quite some time. It's been about 6 months since we deployed. And so we're getting back into it. One thing that I am getting used to again is actually being out at sea. I know it may come as a surprise to anyone who is not an extensive sailor, but people out here in the Coast Guard do get seasick, some fairly bad. I do not get seasick bad, but I will, if I'm not careful, get seasick enough that it is definitely uncomfortable. So usually for the first week, I have to keep an eye on that. I have to take pills. I do not take the patches. There are patches that you can put behind your ears. I do not do that because the one time I did one of those, I was walking down one of the passageways and I thought my head was a balloon floating behind me, and that was not the feeling that I wanted to have to mess with. Another thing about being at sea, it is amazing how long you can see light on the horizon. It is almost an hour after sunset right now as I'm standing out here, and there's still pretty extensive light on the horizon. It is not even close to being what you would call dark. Sometimes I come out here at night. I might well tonight because it's a very clear night, and I'll just take a look at the stars. That's another thing that you miss when you're on land is being somewhere that there is very little to no light pollution and where you can really see the stars. It is absolutely amazing to see the stars against a black sky without light pollution. Obviously, one of the most difficult things about being underway is being away from family. In this case, it was very odd because we were supposed to get underway yesterday, and we got to the pier, we said all our goodbyes, went on board, did a full day of work, and then we had to cancel it because there was a problem with the engines. And so then I had to go home after having said goodbye to everybody, and then had to come back to work today and say goodbye to everyone again. And that is always a difficult thing to do. Um, it's not always extremely enjoyable to be out here. It's definitely not enjoyable being away from family, but it is something that I sort of had to do in order to be able to advance my career in the Coast Guard and then set us up to be able to live an easier life in several years when hopefully I won't have to work at all and we will just be able to enjoy life and just be able to go places based on the work that I have put in here yes, that's correct, while we have been on active duty. I almost rephrased that and said, well, I have been on active duty, but the truth of the matter is that my wife and my kids are a part of this just as much as I am. And while I have struggles out here, they most certainly have struggles at home that I am unable to help with. And that is really a more difficult thing than what I have because I have a crew full of people that I can sit with and hang out with. And with that, although I hate to leave it on a low note like that, with that, I am going to sign off and say I appreciate everybody who listened for being here. I am going to do these every day while we are deployed, and they will be posted periodically. I thank you for listening, and I hope you'll be here tomorrow.